Alright, kindergarten, so this is going to be our first experience with stitching. And stitching is when you take a needle, and we're not going to be using sharp ones, and you thread it, and you get yarn into it, and then you sew, so you push under and over, just like with weaving, and stitch through this. So, this is a piece of burlap, and burlap is a type of cloth. So, the stuff that your clothing is made out of, or what your pants are made out of, or your shirt, or things like that. That's all a type of cloth. And this is a cloth that has really big holes in it, so that you can actually see what you're doing. We can actually stick a big needle through this, one that won't hurt us. So, each of you is going to get a piece of burlap. But now, if I look at the edges of my burlap, there's some edges that are kind of sticking off. Do you guys see that? So we have to take care of those. So we have to pull from the outside edge and pull one row at a time. And now if I look at this outside edge, alright, so there's no more little ones that look like they're going to come off. So now I turn it. And I pull. And then I see one edge here. I'm going to pull that. So I want to make sure that I have a clean line going all the way across. And the reason why I'm doing this is if you've ever had a sock that had a hole in it, or a pair of pants that had a hole in it, and you pulled it and the string started to come undone, it's the same thing that's going to happen with this burlap. So you have to take all of these pieces off so that it doesn't unravel when you're actually stitching on it. And I'm putting all of my little pieces that I'm pulling off in a pile because I want to make sure they all get in the trash can afterwards because they like to stick to clothing. So I'm going to pull from the edge, and you have to do one layer at a time. It's kind of like a puzzle. Find which one's furthest out, and then which one gets a little bit closer. And sometimes you have to pull multiples, but see how I'm doing it on each side and taking my time and just doing one layer at a time. Pulling, keeping my pulled off pieces in a pile. I'm just trying to make it straight. Almost done. I only have one more I need to pull off after this. Right. So I've gone all around all four sides of my rectangle, and I can see that there are no more extra little pieces hanging off. So if you notice, there are two rows. There's one going this way and one going up and down. And here I've pulled off some of those. So see how it's thinner? So on the edge where you have the thicker and the thinner, you're going to run a line of glue. So I opened up my glue as much as I can. So when you're opening up glues, this is it closed. See how it's touching right there? If I twist it, I open it, see how there's a gap in between? I know it's open then. So I'm going to start at the edge. And I'm going to put a big line of glue. This is one of the only times I'll ever tell you not to do dot dot, not a lot. I'm going to line of glue. I have to change how I'm holding it so I have better grip. It's going to take a little bit of muscle to get this glue out. It's okay. So I'm going to run it along there. I'm going to go along two of my sides. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to kind of rub in my glue. I'm going to take it and I'm going to hold it with one hand. With my other hand, I'm just going to run my finger across that glue line. What I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that none of my other strings come off. So, and it's okay if it gets in the middle of your thing. It's totally fine. The glue will dry clear, so you won't even be able to see it. So I did it on two sides, rub it in, and now I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to do it on the other side. And you're going to get glue on your hands. It's okay. You can rub your fingers together, and it'll come right off. So I'm squeezing. I'm trying to keep a nice constant line, looking where I'm going. Just trying to get it on the edge where it goes from two strings to one string. Run my finger along it. You can do one side at a time or two, but you don't want to do all four because then you're going to have glue. You're going to get glue on your hands and then probably on your clothing. So I make sure I only do a couple sides at a time. Make sure whenever you're done using your glue that you always stand it up because the glues are really full. And if you lay it down, then the glue will just spill out, so it's wasting the glue. So I'm going to finish running my finger across it. Go across it a couple of times. So now my burlap is prepped and ready to go. And see how I have glue on my fingers and how I'm just rubbing it off? That's all you have to do. Make sure those little things go in the trash. Okay, so my burlap is prepped. It's ready to go. Now, some of us might have issues with how long some of our strings are. What we can do is we can trim it. And what I mean by trimming is I'm not going to cut it off completely, but I'm going to trim it. So if you ever have gotten a haircut, and so you didn't get all of your hair cut off, or all of your hair cut off, you got to trim. So trim means you're just going to trim up, or take a little bit off. So trim it. I'm using the elbow inside of my scissors. So otherwise, it's going to be really hard to cut it. Not getting right next to it and leaving some behind. Alright. And all of these little scraps need to get in the trash can. Do not leave them on the floor. Leave it on the floor, I'm going to make you come back and clean it up. Alright, and so you can do it on your other sides. Make sure they're all nice and trimmed up. And this is not something you have to do, but you're allowed to do it. Notice I'm leaving some space behind. Keeping them in a pile. Alright, so it's prepped, it's ready to go. I trimmed it. Oops, apparently I left one behind. There you go. So it's all ready to go. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start the actual stitching process. So that's going to be a different video. But right now, what you need to do is get your burlap, pull off your strings one at a time, and glue around the edges. If you want to, you can trim them, but you need to make sure that you're leaving some behind. All right, any other questions? Just ask.